The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
From the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, this is Legends. I'm Jason Bryant. Prepare for a journey through wrestling's past, present, and future, as we'll hear the great stories of wrestling and success from the true legends of the sport here on Hall of Fame Legends. An outstanding high school and collegiate wrestler, Rich Lorenzo became an icon in college wrestling as the head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions from 1978 to 1992. His exemplary career has earned Lorenzo induction into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as a 2019 Distinguished Member. During his coaching career, he helped 53 Penn State wrestlers earn All-America honors, including two-time NCAA champion Jeff Prescott and national champions Carl DeStefanis, Scott Lynch, and Jim Martin. He led the Nittany Lions to 11 top 10 NCAA finishes, including 6 top 5 finishes. Penn State won 11 consecutive EIWA championships and 2 national dual meet championships. Lorenzo was named the EIWA Coach of the Year 6 times and was the National Coach of the Year in 1981 and 1992. Prior to becoming the head coach, he was an assistant coach at Penn State from 1968 to 1974 and helped the Nittany Lions finish in the top 10 at the NCAA tournament 4 times while winning 2 EIWA titles and finishing second 3 times. He was the co-executive director of the National Wrestling Coaches Association from 1993 to 1995, raising one half of the coach's $1 million capital campaign challenge, and served as the association's membership chair and treasurer from 1993 to 1999. Lorenzo was the executive director and treasurer for the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, serving as the major fundraiser to fully endow the wrestling program. He was the chief fundraiser for a $4 million wrestling facility, which bears the name the Lorenzo Wrestling Complex. On the mat, Lorenzo was a 2-time district champion and a state runner-up for Newton High School in New Jersey. Seated first at 191 pounds in the 1968 NCAA championships, Lorenzo lost a close 2-1 decision in the semifinals and finished 4th. Earlier, he had won an EIWA championship and was named the Outstanding Wrestler and winner of the trophy for the most falls. A member of numerous Hall of Fames, he was inducted in both the EWL Hall of Fame and the PIAA Athletic Hall of Fame in 1996.
Well, Coach Lorenzo he's a legend at Penn State, a legendary coach for a lot of great reasons. He really just represents everything that we celebrate in the sport: hard work, humility, straightforward, just tough, hard-nosed. When I took the job at Penn State, he was the president of the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, very involved, and it meant a great deal to have his support as I took the job here. It's very clear how much respect that he has in the community, in the state, in this part of the country, in the sport of wrestling.
I was born and raised on a dairy farm in northwestern New Jersey. My parents were hard-working people. They had the right values and really were concerned about their fellow man, and they passed that on to my sister and brother and myself. Well, I really got involved in wrestling back in 6th grade. A couple of my friends were going out for it, and my uncles had wrestled, and my brother wrestled, and so I tried that, and I also loved baseball. Baseball was probably my first love back then. But wrestling became my sport. A day doesn't go by that I'm not thinking wrestling, reading wrestling, or just enjoying it. To be honest with you, in high school, I was a little guy. I wrestled my sophomore year, I wrestled 105. My junior year, I wrestled 112 or 115 in New Jersey. And in my senior year, I grew up to 140 and was a runner-up in the States. I lost in overtime. You worked hard, you usually got results. My uncle was a captain of the Penn State wrestling team and graduated in 1933. And he was very influential in getting me to come to Penn State. I majored in dairy science, I say cows, and my master's in dairy management. And my brother actually was 2.5 years older than me, And he stayed home on our farm, and I got a chance to go to college. So his sacrifice, really, I benefited by it a lot, and I never can thank him for that. My career at Penn State started as I was a walk-on. I had wrestled 140 in the state of New Jersey in March. My parents bought me a suit for the senior picture. And by the time August came around, I was 180-some pounds, and the suit went up to about my elbows. I was an Eastern runner-up. I was in 4th place in the EIWA. I was 2nd place in the EIWA, and then 1st in the EIWA at 190. The finish I think of the most is when I lost in the national semifinals my senior year. But I think it really humbled me and made me a better coach, a more receptive coach to difference and the uniqueness of people.
He set the example for all of his teammates with tremendously high standards, tremendous ethics, and he was someone that everybody else wanted to follow.
Coach Cole was probably the most influential person to me. He was like a second father, and he was so technically advanced, it was unbelievable. And I just, any word he said, I listened to it like I was the only one he was coaching. I was working on the farm in the summer, and I got a call from George Edwards, who at that time was the assistant coach at Penn State and my coach. And he had just taken a job at Virginia, and he said, Rich, you're the new assistant coach at Penn State. And I said, what are you talking about, George? I didn't apply for anything. I didn't apply. He said, no. He said, Coach Cole and I got together, and we think you'll make a great assistant coach. I wasn't so sure I was going to like being a teacher or a coach. I had never dreamt one day of doing that. But after 2 weeks at Penn State teaching classes and getting involved with the kids in classes and then the wrestling team and the guys coming back and all, it just was like God opened up and said, this is what you want to do with your life, and hopefully you use it in a smart fashion, which I hope I did.
Richie had a vision for Penn State wrestling, and it wasn't about him. It was never about him. It was never even about Penn State. It was about the people that made up the program and what they stood for, and not just at that time, but their life.
We had years where we had 7 All-Americans, 8 All-Americans.
It wasn't so much about the X's and O's, and he was great with technique, but it was more about as a person and about that caring attitude. He was always there for you. And as a coach and a colleague, basically, you coached with him.
In the long run, the end, we're going to have respect. Respect is so important, but it's something you got to earn. It just isn't granted to you because you're 60 or 50 or 30 or you're the best wrestler and all. It's something that you have to work on and perfect. I try to make it be a lesson for life. Wrestling is one of the greatest sports ever found or made or designed that really brings you right back to what we experience every day in our lives. I've always felt Penn State was a gold mine, and right now we have a guy who really minding that gold mine. I'm so happy about wrestling and at Penn State. It just tickles me.
To have his support made all the difference and has made all the difference in the world to myself, but just the Penn State wrestling program in general.
My wife, Cindy, she's my number one person in my life. She's been my number one supporter. And then I have 2 children, Michael, who is 30 years old, and he's a state policeman, Pennsylvania state policeman. And my daughter, Annie, who is 28 years old, and she's a first grade teacher in elementary school. Well, being inducted into the Hall of Fame is just a great honor, and it's the highest honor that you're able to achieve on a national basis. And it's an honor that humbles me, and I want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who made that possible and helped me earn that honor.
Rich Lorenzo is an incredible human being who sacrificed his own life to make Penn State and Penn State wrestling much better during his tenure there.
2019 inductee to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, Rich Lorenzo, longtime coach at Penn State, storied career. Before we even get into that career, what's it mean to you to be inducted in this year's class and be regarded as one of wrestling's most distinguished people?
Well, I don't believe all that, but it's really exciting and really fulfilling to be inducted to Hall of Fame in your sport and go in with so many other people that have been great to the sport and contributed so much to young people's lives. Means a lot. The only thing I don't like is I can't take everybody up there on the stage with me that helped me get to this spot in my life.
With everybody that has an amazing story, amazing background, amazing career, it all starts somewhere. Where did wrestling start for you?
Started on the farm with my brother and sister. They were both older. And I sort of was a pain and go around and agitate, and we would be in wrestling matches and fist fights. My uncles wrestled in high school back in the 20s. And my one uncle went to Penn State 29 and graduated in 1933. And they would keep talking to us about wrestling and all. So I started in about 6th grade, a couple matches, and then same in 7th and 8th. But I really liked the sport, and I was very interested. I was a lightweight. I was 105 pounds and 115 pounds the first 2 years. And I kept growing until a year after I was out of Penn State. So.
What was it about the sport itself? Because, you know, even growing up rough and tumble, some people usually have some adverse feelings when it comes to basically getting beat up, or, you know, if you're good, you don't get beat up nearly as much on the mat. But what was it about wrestling that you found exciting and something that just kind of roped you into it?
I just love the competition. I like competing against it. It's nervous. I get very nervous, but it goes away as soon as you make contact. And I think it was the fact that it was one-on-one. You were responsible for your actions. I like it because you were always trying to win, and to me the way to win was pin. I really I think that's the ultimate, is to pin your opponent. And I always liked that challenge. If I got beat, it just made you work a little harder, but never doubt yourself or give up on yourself. And you know, we all go through phases, and with confidence and relaxation and explosion and all the things that are necessary in the sport. And that was the life's lessons, going through all the practices and matches and competitions, and then with a team and coaching teams and seeing young men go through that. So wrestling is just a great sport.
When it comes time to leave high school and go to college, how soon did college wrestling actually become a reality that you were considering going to compete at the next level beyond scholastic wrestling?
When I was a sophomore in high school, which was in 1962, my uncle, who was a Penn State grad, took me out to a Eastern tournament at Penn State. And it was the first time I ever saw college wrestling, and the crowds and the people, and wow, I was so excited with it and so entertained. And I just said, wow, it's just great.
So that's something where if we look at the current situation at Penn State as to the crowds, the sellout crowds, Rec Hall's been sold out, you know, basically since Cale got the job. BJC sells out, big crowds. Do you think that's kind of maybe some of that, it's that thinking where you got a lot of first-timers? It's not just the old wrestling fans, it's fans that when they come see it for the first time, they get hooked?
You know, our coaches are doing such an outstanding job at marketing the sport, not only on the mat but off the mat, the way they live their lives, the commitment from their families. And, you know, they love what they're doing, and they're able to do it because the whole family's involved. And it was just the kind of thing that, wow, it was just exciting.
Do you see a lot of similarities to what you saw then, you experienced then, to what you see now with the program?
What I see now is just amazing. Just to win 8 out of the last 9 national championships. I was trying to win 1. You know, got close a few times. 8 All-Americans, 7 All-Americans.
The building's named after you.
Well, we won't talk about that because I still think it should be Rec Hall, Penn State. But it's just exciting the way the sport is at Penn State, how it's appreciated. And like you said, new fans, and then a new fan comes in and they see the kind of action and the crowd, and they get in it. It's the first time a lot of people have watched wrestling, and for the first time they're at college and they're going to get in a match. Well, now we got a bunch of kids sitting down on the floor watching, as well as 6,000, 7,000 in the stands. And it's sort of a goal. It's a gold mine if you got the right minors, and we have the right minors right now, and hopefully we have them for a long, long time. But I really like the way they handle young people, and that makes me really pleased. And seeing those crowds makes me really happy, and just the whole thing, people talking about wrestling, wearing wrestling stuff, and it's just great.
When you look at your induction this year, how much do you think of it as you as an athlete, or how much do you think of it as you as a coach, or how much is it you as a person?
Well, I hope it's me as a person, but I had a chance to win as an athlete, and I didn't do it. I didn't reach my goals, and I worked extremely hard. I paid the price academically, athletically, as far as dieting and commitment on, but it wasn't meant to be. It just didn't happen. And it made me try to understand a little bit more about life in general. You don't reach this goal, but you did everything you were supposed to, even prayed. And it just taught me a great lesson. But I think most of the reason I'm in here is because of the opportunities I've had, the people I surrounded myself with, very good people, and a lot of people who appreciate the sport of wrestling. Friend and foe, just a good relationship. And the wrestling tends to bring that out. The wrestling people are a little different than other sports, not so concerned if we're as pretty as we can be, or we just want a good battlefield and let's get into it, One of our heavyweights, Dave Joyner, a long time ago, he said, wrestling, like being in the gladiator days, but you have rules in the arena. And then when you think about it, it really is. You're trying to conquer your opponent.
When the situation arises in your career to have the opportunity to lead the Penn State wrestling program as its head coach, how does that opportunity present itself? Tell the story on how you became the coach.
Completely by luck. I graduated in '68. I was home working on our farm. I had one course. I had to go back to Penn State to get my degree in dairy management. And I got a call from George Edwards, who was the coach at University of Virginia, but he was my coach at Penn State, assistant coach with Coach Cole. And he said, I put your name in, and you are now the new assistant coach at Penn State. And I said, Coach, I never dreamt a day about coaching. He said, yeah, and you're going to teach. You're going to teach physical education activities like squash and racquetball and weight training and judo and wrestling and all that. And I said, wow. So I started my master's in dairy management when I went back to Penn State in the fall. But I started as a coach and teaching classes, and within 2 weeks it was like God had presented me this chance to do something I could do with my life, and hopefully to help people a little bit better, and to help the world a little bit better by going one step at a time, one person at a time, and just giving them the way you'd like to be treated, with respect and sincerity, integrity, and so, I think being the person is why I'm in here, and I'm not being arrogant with that. Just I really am happy it's that.
So George Edwards gets you to come back to Penn State, and then, with Bill Cole, who's at the time, he's a legend. He's still a legend in the sport. I mean, even his son Rob's like, man, my dad is more important to me in the sport. But so the opportunity to become the coach, is it an immediate thing? Is it something that you talk to Bill about through George, or?
No, I just think working on being coach's team, Bill Cole's team, and the commitment I made and the desire I had to win and desire I had to succeed, he felt that was very important, and he wanted that to be part of his squad, his teaching squad. And I did it for 6 years. I was the assistant coach for 6. During that time, we were like 57-3, and we had finished 4th and 3rd in the country, and things, but we needed a little bit more help and more administrative support, but they weren't willing to give it. So when they weren't willing to give it, I retired from coaching in 74. And then I was just teaching full-time at Penn State. 78, when Coach Cole retired, they came after me to be the new head coach, the athletic director, Rich Lucas. And I told him I didn't really want the job. I said I had the job as assistant coach, and I loved it. And the coach let me do as much work and teaching as anybody, as much as him. And I did most of the recruiting and all that. But we weren't making the commitment. I'm putting in 90 hours a week. I don't want to finish 10th. I'm not doing this to be 15th or to present. I'm doing this for the young men that believe in us and what I believe in and trying to get ahead. So I told him, I gave him a list of about 10 things that I thought our wrestling program needed. And when I gave it to him, the athletic director came back and challenged me. He says, well, you're a lot of air and you're talking, but why don't you take the job and do it? And I said, wow. I said, and then he sort of got my short hairs up in the conversation. I said, okay, I'll do it. So the first year we go 2-11, and I think he was looking for a place to hide because we had gone out of the top 10 all the way down and we didn't score a point to the national tournament. And then the second year was about the same thing. We finished 45th at the national tournament. Then we were 6th the third year, and then from then on there was only one year we didn't make the top 10. So that was what transitioned. And then in 1992, the NCAA passed a rule that wrestling could only have 2 full-time coaches and one, they called it a restricted earnings coach, but it was like a graduate assistant.
What's now become the GA or the volunteer assistant.
Exactly. And with that, I had been there 14 years. And my assistants who were loyal and put their whole lives into it, one was John Fritz, and he had been with me for 12 years. And the other one was Hashiro Oishi, and he had been with me for 9 years. And it was their program too. And we were successful because of all of us contributing where our strengths were. And so, and I had promised Fritzy when he was down at Franklin Marshall that I'd like him to come up and be my assistant, but I would be retiring, I would think, after 10 years. Well, this was now the 12th year. So between that and the NCAA saying, no more 3 coaches, I was the only one that was going to be able to stay at Penn State and teach classes because I had the longer history of being a teacher and had started in 68. And so that's how I ended up getting out and retiring. And I always felt the school was a gold mine because we had so many good curriculums we offered. We had a great location. We had fan interest, and Cale and his crew have proved that it is a gold mine. And they're mining it pretty good.
Talking about one great coach and you followed another. How hard is it to follow somebody like Bill Cole?
Well, Jason, I look at today, what I can do today and tomorrow. I learn from yesterday, but I don't live in yesterday. So following Bill Cole, I know I never could hold a candle to Coach Cole as a wrestler and also as a technician. He was so amazing. He was so ahead of his time. It's unbelievable. If we had a long time, I'd tell you all the kinds of things that he did and he had us do that were unheard of in the East at that time.
Can you give me one of those stories real quick?
Well, sure. One of the things in the wrestling room, he came in and he was smoking a cigar, and we were all looking at where's the new coach, because my freshman year was his first year at Penn State in 1964. We're looking and we're saying, where's the coach? And here's this guy sitting on a bench with a cigar in his mouth. Well, then he put the cigar down, and then for 4 years, I was just awed by this guy. I mean, he's teaching us, and you're still learning, and it's exciting to go to practice. And so I never really tried to compare myself to him. I learned from him. I mean, Coach was pretty strong-headed, and he was not the most polished recruiter and didn't believe in doing too much of that, but that's where the game is. It's the athletes you get and the commitment they want to make to go along with your commitment if you're going to be good. So, and then now with Cale, I couldn't be happier. I mean, I haven't been to practice all the years Cale's been there. They don't need me down there. They can handle that, and they're doing a tremendous job. So I don't want to mess them up. I just felt I had my day, and I put it there, and now I want to help in other ways. And that's why I went with the National Wrestling Coaches and worked with them for a while. And we worked on trying to do a lot of local stuff with our local club and kids and parents and all that, and hold tournaments and camps. And so that's what transpired.
We're in an era where we're seeing almost, I don't want to say rebirth, but the stem of programs being cut has kind of slowed, whereas now we're seeing more programs being added, especially at the subdivision 1 level. Women's wrestling is knocking on the door as emerging sports status. That's going to be coming, any day now as we record this, end of May, beginning of June, 2019. The landscape of wrestling and what it looks like now compared to what it looks like back when you were coaching, what are some of the things that are still the same? Everybody wants to talk about differences. What are some of the things as a coach and competition-wise that are just like they were back in the day?
One of the things that I think is different, I think people are starting to realize it's not just on the wrestling mat. It's just not something that you walk on the mat and you wrestle and that's it. It's a commitment, a life commitment. It's a career commitment. It's whatever you decide to do. And I really like that. At the same time, I don't believe we get enough credit for the educational tool we are, the sport of wrestling. It really teaches young men and young ladies about their life and the kinds of things they're going to face in their life. It might not be this exact same scenario, but the commitment and what that means, and the dedication and the hard work and the paying attention to details and all those kinds of things. I don't think we get enough credit from the athletic departments or the presidents of universities because they, it's wrestling, that's channel 13, 11, whatever it is. And that bothers me and always has bothered me. I don't look at wrestling as being the second sport. I look at it being the first sport. And yet I acknowledge tennis, soccer, all those, that they should feel the same way I feel. They're sports number one. And that's one we should be very proud of. And I think the fact that Cale and Cody and Casey and Jake Varner, they have just done a tremendous job of marketing that, and that has really helped everything. And the way they do it, they're gentlemen, and they do it with a lot of integrity. And just like anybody, there's a lot of great kids, but you can only get so many because of NCAA restrictions on granting aids when they allow you, 9.9 scholarships for 10 weights. Mm-hmm. That's a little tough. No substitution.
When we look at going to the NCAA championships now, selling out 18, 19,000 seat arenas compared to what the crowds used to be like, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. And the experience is almost to the point where, it's not just a yearly fraternity meeting for people that used to go as kids and as college students, but it's a tough ticket to get now, a lot like Penn State wrestling tickets. When you see just basically the differences in the crowds at nationals, it's big time.
It really is, and it's great. And I think that'll sell us and keep selling us because it's a hot item. People talk about it all the time. I can't even begin to tell you how many people call me and say, "Coach, can you get us any tickets?"
Oh my goodness, I get that every year now.
Yeah. It's just an exciting time. But I just think that there's some things we need to do and keep doing that we're doing now, and I'd love to see every school flower now with this kind of initiative. I believe the way Casey and Cale and Cody make kids wrestle, if I'm a coach, I say, God, what are they doing that's getting them up there? And you see their kids like enjoying this hard sport of sacrifice and commitment, and they're out there trying to throw the kitchen sink at you, and they keep throwing it at you.
I think Nolf created a move called the kitchen sink, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's probably true. But it's neat. It's just neat to see that. And the thing that I would like to see happen is I'd like to see the NCAA quit using, and this is, again, me, But using the thing, well, we don't do that for other sports, like taking extra guys to the national tournament. We're making a lot of money. We're turning in a lot of money in NCAA for wrestling. And, you know, some of these conferences got great kids in there, work their tails off, but they only take 1 or 2 guys per weight class. We had the Nationals at Penn State in 1968. We had over 400 entries and ran the tournament in 3 days.
I think that was the last year it was open.
Yeah, 3 days. We ran the tournament. But the thing that when I try to fight for this all the time I was coaching is, well, we only allow them to go down so far place-wise to here. We only allow a ratio of this to this. Well, I don't want to hear you can't do that because other sports will come in, and because they did a lot of things in football and basketball. They didn't really care whether you cared what they were doing or not. They just put it through. And I'm saying, don't use that excuse on me and expect me to sit here and have an intelligent conversation with you if, you know, you're not going to entertain the fact that these schools that are putting money into the sport of wrestling, if their alumni can go watch the kids wrestle at the national tournament because they got a couple of opportunities, that's going to help. That'll keep the sport in that school, you know, or at least give it a strong grounds to fight any kind of reduction of teams or Title IX or all that. Get more kids, let more kids come on out and try to prove themselves at the national tournament. It's only 1 round or something like that, you know, or add on to that pigtail round. And we could have over 400 kids there. Brings more people, more fans, more spectators, you know.
When we look at your career as a coach, there's been great talent that you've had the opportunity to coach as an assistant and as a head coach. And you've had great talent you've been able to see after your retirement from wrestling as a coach. Who can you, I guess I don't want the best, but because you always have ties. I want, if you can tell me the 3 best guys you ever coached, you ever got a chance to put your hands on and go, wow, this wrestler is spectacular. Who would they be?
I couldn't name them. I could not name them because they're all different. They're all unique. And I don't go in any pin pools. I don't go in any picked weight classes. I never have, because I always believe you have a chance. And you have a chance to win. And if you want to stick somebody, you stick them and you win. You know, and no matter how much time is left, as long as you got at least 2 good seconds, you're still in that battle. As long as you don't give up before it's over. And you don't give up after it's over. So I just would love to see it just expanded on. And the kids, the greatest kids I had, some of them were JV kids. You know, oh my gosh, well, I was a walk-on. And I'm thankful Bill Cole gave me a chance to wrestle, you know.
Walk-on to head coach to Hall of Fame. You're the Rudy story before Rudy was even Rudy.
I'm named Rich, and the reason I'm named Rich is because I am rich. I have so many friends, and you just couldn't reward me any other way. I mean, winning and losing, I can handle that. But I don't like to ever fail on reaching a person or working with a friend or a student or whoever it might be.
As we circle back about the induction here, how does the phone call go? How do you get notified? And what is your immediate reaction when you're told you're not just going in the Hall of Fame at the state level, you're not going into the Penn State Hall of Fame, you're going into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Your face is going to be etched in granite. What's the reaction? How do you find out?
I feel bad for the viewers and the spectators because my face is going to be in granite. Poor people. They only came out to see that. But no, it sinks in even more every day what an honor it is and what a great way of acknowledging and recognizing that you gave to the sport and you received from the sport. And Leroy gave me that call, and I didn't really think about it much before that or anything. I just, I'm in the Pennsylvania Hall of Fame and a bunch of other Hall of Fames. I never really, but to be recognized on the national level, it started really meaning more once you start thinking about it, because I never really dreamt about it or anything like that. So I'd be lying if I said I'm not excited or I'm not thankful. But the thing I started out with is I wish I could somehow let everybody see who really helped me through the era that I was at Penn State. Johnny Fritz, Shiro Oishi, two of my immediate assistants. And then all the great grad assistants and all the great wrestlers I had. And the supporters, I mean, there's so many people that travel all over. You go to gyms, and we get the largest crowd for those gyms of anybody, you know, and they're going, wow, that's neat. It's not only in our home, but people come out to see us and travel to see us. And the wrestling club has been done a tremendous job with them.
2019 inductee to National Wrestling Hall of Fame, Rich Lorenzo. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jason, very much.
Legends is presented by the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and produced by the Matt Talk Podcast Network. If you want to hear more from wrestling's legends, contribute to this ongoing project at halloffamelegends.org/contribute. One-time and small monthly donation options are available. We hope you've enjoyed this look into wrestling history. This has been Legends. I'm Jason Bryant.